Now, it's been several years since we spoke last, which is, but there's no good reason for this. Elana had appeared on this programme regularly over the years and on a TV show I produced and presented in London. I think the world of her. She is, amongst other things, I mean, she's a broadcaster, she's a researcher, an academic, but she's also the author of the Geoengineering Trilogy, and she would have come on the programme over the years to talk about these books, the most recent being Geoengineered Transhumanism, how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. I'll say it again, Geoengineered Transhumanism, how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. And Elana would have come on over the years to talk about her books. Let's welcome her back to the programme. As I said, it's really timely this, because you have been reaching out to me this week to discuss chemtrails and geoengineering. It is a warm welcome once again to our friend Elana Freeland. Hello Elana, welcome back.
Hey Richie, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. It's like you're in the next room. It's like you're in this.
Okay.
It's like you're in this room.
I'm so glad to finally reconnect.
That's
I don't
brilliant.
know how you ended up at the bottom of the bin of all my email. I'm so behind. I need a staff of 3, but I only have a 1-woman band.
Well, do you know what it is, Elana? Because I produced this myself. It's always my fault because I don't follow up, you see. Because, I don't follow up because I send out an email and I think, right, great, and then I don't hear back. People are busy, fair enough. And that's how it goes. But listen, it doesn't matter. You're here now. And I believe the stars have aligned to bring you here today. Because, look, the show has a pretty large audience. That's not a boast. It does. And there are people joining all the time because of what has happened in the last 3 years. And out of the blue, I'm being asked questions about chemtrails, about geoengineering. And I thought, isn't it wonderful synchronicity, serendipity, call it what you want. You're here. And I thought, you know what? No better woman in the world to ask for somebody who's never spoken about this before, for somebody new to it. What the hell is chemtrails? What is geoengineering? How would you explain it to somebody for the very first time who'd never heard those terms before?
Well, the first thing I would have to say to people is that this is not about climate change. This is not about global warming. These are the cover stories used in intelligence operations. And very few people know that the beginning of all this, chemtrails, really happened, in a way, in World War I and II, when they were dropping chaff and chemicals. In World War I, it was completely a chemical war that was waged in the trenches in Europe, and an entire generation of European youth were pretty much wiped out. And then it continued thanks to IG Farben, the big pharma mother house in Europe, in England actually, and that continued to the wars that we've had since those 2 world wars. In Vietnam, we all remember, those of us old enough to remember, the dropping of chemicals in order to destroy the jungle in Vietnam. And all of this is not because they didn't know that this was all very damaging. They know all that. And the same goes for what's coming down on us from the chemical trails.
What is coming down, Elana? What is it exactly, in your opinion? What has your research led you to believe?
There is so much, because they can now attach various chemicals to the norms. There are certain norms like barium. Barium is essential for the communication system and for holograms that are now being unleashed in the latest PSYOP of UFOs. And there's aluminum, which is the cheapest and most surface area chaff, or as it's also called, doping by the military. What that means is what the doping does is they have to drop these nanoparticles, these very, very tiny, a nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. They have to drop a lot of nanoparticles in order to keep the atmosphere ionized. And what most people don't tie the chemtrails to, because obviously the American public, and I would say the world public, because I'm in touch with a lot of people around the world, is kept in the dark as to this technology. Now, why would it be kept in the dark? If this is to make our weather better and to make, to counter so-called the chemical problems that we're having with climate change, including the carbons, why wouldn't they want people to know about this? Because it's a weapon system. This is entirely a weapon system. So the chemtrails are essential to keeping the atmosphere ionized for wireless operations. And now we have an entirely wireless world. We don't, hardly anyone uses wired anymore. And I'm constantly now and then talking to computer geeks who have no clue that the electromagnetism of a wireless environment in your home, in your business place, is absolutely damaging to the human nervous system. So, there's a big blockage going on, Richie, of public information about this technology because it is a weapon system.
I've been doing my homework on you because it's been a while since we spoke. I've listened to one or two interviews you've given and talks, and I've been absolutely blown away by this. We'll talk in a moment about how they charge the atmosphere using these particles. We might talk about the HARP facilities. I know it's old stuff, but it'll be new to a lot of listeners, and what it might mean for weather and stuff. Elana Freeland is our guest. I don't know of anybody who's researched this as diligently and as thoroughly as Elana, so it's great to have her back on the programme. Lots of comments coming in already on this, but I'm fascinated. Where is it coming from? It's not coming from commercial airliners. I saw you recently, I heard you talk about drones. Tell us about drones, and tell us about painting drones to look like they are in fact commercial airliners. This fascinates me. What's this all about?
Well, that's been going on. We've had this chemical trails and HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, up in Gakona, Alaska. It's a big ionospheric heater that can zap the ionosphere itself way above us, starting 22 miles above us, or I don't know what that is in kilometers, but you'll have to make that translation.
Yeah, we're on the miles here in the UK. We're miles as well, so don't worry about that. That's good.
Okay, all right. So the HARP is essential to understanding the use of the chemical trails. First of all, that HARP has, by 2013, and the patents came out in the 90s for HARP, and the building of HARP up in Gakona, Alaska, started in the 90s. So it was good to go by the end of the 90s, and then that's when if you look, you'll see that the chemical trails began to be very profuse in the sky over all NATO countries. Now, those are the only ones I checked for the first book that came out in 2014, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, because to control the ionosphere is essential to keeping our atmosphere ionized, which means electrified like an antenna. That's why summers are now so much hotter. You've got the aluminum in the atmosphere. You've got electromagnetics and lasers going off for all sorts of military operations, not just fast movie downloads and the nonsense they tell us is the reason that we have this 5G system. So the electromagnetics and the chemicals are working together in the ionized atmosphere to keep it like an antenna, in a way, like a semiconductor. So this electrification of the world is what you see everywhere now in America. I don't know how it is in England, but in America, you cannot, if you're going to build a new house, you will not be allowed to use gas heating, natural gas. No, you have to use electric. And now, of course, we have the electric cars that are blowing up and producing fires. This electrification of the world comes from this technology and the idea that you can control not just all of life, not just industry and society, but the biological life and the human brain. All of this is pouring out now as one patent after another. You can tell they've been working on this for a long time. So when you ask, well, where is it coming from? I have to say that the trail I'm on now is the synthetic biology trail that is being dumped on us. And that goes all the way back to, remember the independent scientist Clifford Carnicom?
Yes.
At the very beginning of when some of us were beginning to expose this to the public. Clifford Carnicom was the sole scientist dedicated to researching the Morgellons that was being dumped on us from the chemical trails. And the Morgellons is a pathogen that is very tiny, and he was finding it in the saliva of all the people he studied, in their blood. I remember when I was looking over his shoulder, and we were looking through his microscope, and I saw these creatures, these little teeny weeny creatures under the microscope of 300 power, sucking the erythrocytes, the red blood cells, out of my cells. I saw them. And that's when I really got how important this issue is. I didn't know it was all heading toward transhumanism then, but it definitely crossed my mind because the word transhumanism in the early 2000s was beginning to be bandied about. And so since then, I have done much more research on the relationship between the military-industrial intelligence complex and for example, fluoride. Okay, and we can go down the list of chemicals that are being dumped from the sky and put in our water sources and in our GMO fields, which I try not to eat GMOs, by the way, folks.
And it's difficult for you, Elana. It's difficult for you in Washington, isn't it? Because, the US has basically been carpeted by GMO seeds in the last 25 years. So it's hard work for you, isn't it, to avoid eating that stuff?
Do you think in England, Richie, that you don't have that same problem?
No, I don't. I'm not stupid. I hear what you're saying. It's here. I mean, officially it isn't here, but it is here. I remember about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, pre-COVID, we were going to order a pizza from I might as well say it's Domino's, right? So we were sitting down, watching a film. I said to my better half, Caroline, I said, what do you reckon? Yeah, let's have a look. We looked at the ingredients, and if we had a certain crust, if we chose a certain crust, it told us clearly, and I put a post on Facebook at the time, is that it contained GMO ingredients. And I thought, my God, this is not known to the public. These GMO seeds and GMO ingredients are not supposed to be in the UK. So you make an excellent point. They are here already, yes.
Right. I think the last I checked, there were 37 countries in the world that do not allow GMOs, not just in a slap your wrist way either, as a felony. That's the way it is in Russia. If you bring any GMO seed in or GMO foods in, you're looking at a felony. So some people at least know that the problem with the GMOs, just to be very clear, because some people say to me, oh, well, Elana, you eat organic, but you're getting all this dump from the sky. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this. At least in organic foods, you have what are called heirloom seed. You have real seed from Mother Nature. in the GMO foods, and they claim that there's only a few foods that are GMO. That's nonsense. Almost everything now is GMO, including the animals. And so all of them have these synthetic biology, artificial, synthetic, whatever you want to call it. That is the seed that has grown these foods that look like food, but I'm really not sure how much nutrient you're getting. So again, back to the...
Just before you go back, Alana, can I do a very quick recap? Elana Freeland is our guest. Elana is a researcher, a journalist, an academic, the author of the Geoengineering Trilogy. I will put links to the books on the podcast notes after the live radio show. And if I can just say before you go back, what you're hearing from Elana is that this geoengineering agenda, it is multifaceted. It is not just specifically about one thing. It's about lots of different things. It serves a lot of different agendas. It's some people say, it's even terraforming the earth, some people say. It's certainly electrifying the atmosphere for communications purposes. There's no doubt about that at all. It's also meant to change, to impact upon the health of people negatively. It's also meant to accelerate the transhumanist agenda. And if you don't understand what transhumanism is, I reckon you check out Elana's books, but just check out the term in any dictionary. It is the changing of the biological human, irredeemably, merging people with technology. I mean, my God, what do we think Elon Musk is doing with the Neuralink? Does that terrify you, that? Because that scares the absolute bejesus out of me.
Well, yeah, but the Elon Musk Neuralink is already a done deal. He may have a different product in mind that people will need to have surgically implanted, etc. Wow. But the truth is that the nanotechnology now coming down just from the sky, not necessarily. I mean, I haven't even turned yet to what's being jabbed into people's arms. But from the sky, the nanotechnology is highly developed. As I said, it's very tiny. A lot of them are nano robots. You can understand that means computerized possibilities. They are transceivers. They transmit, they receive, and they are so small that I think now where people can see them, but you would need a very good microscope, perhaps a dark field microscope, in order to see the actual entities. But they do move in a consciousness sense. They have a sort of group soul, a hive mind, as we're told. And they move as a phalanx. And the place where, Richie, I was just blown away, where I saw them operating, speaking of the multidimensional ways that the nanotechnology alone is being used, was during the California fires here in the States in 2017. And because there was a fire at the identical time in Portugal, I was in touch with a very wonderful activist there at that time. And I believe that they would have had the same nanotechnology involved in their fires, in these what I call geoengineered fires, and they are geoengineered from space. So what I saw was a phalanx of what looked like embers blowing down the road and blowing this way and that way. But the more I looked at them, the more they seemed highly organized. And then I realized that I wasn't looking at embers. I wasn't looking at wind blowing them down the road. I was looking at nanotechnology being sent to ignite some buildings and bypass other buildings through programming that they had going from, I don't know, from where? Was it from someone's laptop there at the fire? Was it from satellite? I really don't know. But I saw how they can be used as a fighting unit on a very tiny scale, and in a way that where if you've got fire going on, they really looked like embers, but they were not. It was very
hard to explain, wasn't it? It was very hard. In fact, it was never explained why the fires would ignore certain buildings and even ignore trees and burn certain trees and not burn other. trees. I've never seen anything like it. Can I just do my job and ask you, why would anybody, any government agency or any very, very secretive organisation, why would they want to start these wildfires? What was the payoff for them, do you think?
Well, I think this is just more of the UN's Sustainable Development Program, in which there are big real estate deals going on. You mentioned the word terraforming. We tend to think of terraforming as being some sort of alien disposition coming from another planet. No, the terraforming is going on right here, right now, with the geoengineering. It's one of the 7 operations that geoengineering offers the military-industrial intelligence complex that serves the so-called elite of the planet. And let me just name those 7 as long as we're on that, and I won't go into detail with it unless maybe later. And so there is weather engineering, and people ask me, is all the weather engineered? Yes, it is. All the weather is engineered to my knowledge. The chemical electromagnetic engineering is going on of various things, various operations in the atmosphere, in the sky, that the military industrial complex is pursuing. Planetary and geophysical, this would be the terahertz, the terraforming. And that includes the use of the fires, the floods, the hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, storms, droughts, polar vortices, solar cycles, etc. Everything is being used for experimentation now that the atmosphere is highly charged by control over the ionosphere. Let's get that straight. That's what geoengineering is really about. Then the 4th or the 5th operation is surveillance and neural manipulation. Neural manipulation is just a nice way of saying mind control. And that happens from space. Digital biology, nanotechnology, transhumanism, all those 3 go together. The digital biology, all of biology is being changed from molecular biology to digital, which means they only need the frequency and the chemical signatures in order to transmit those by 5G and 6G to various people and create diseases or whatever.
Why do they, if this is true and they're changing the biological human into the digital human, and if they can do this, and this is not me being sarcastic, we've known each other too long, why do they not use that technology then to silence, the more prominent voices who talk about this stuff, people like yourself? Why don't they turn it on you? And we've had enough of Elana Freeland now talking about this. Let's plant a suggestion in Elana's mind to go and bake some cakes and to join a local charity or something. Why? Why not? You know what I mean?
That would be the day, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Good question. And of course, I've had to figure that out because, Richie, I am targeted at times. They're in my brain at times. Why haven't they killed me? Well, I think because they want people to know about this technology, and how perfect is it that you have a non-PhD who's just a terrific researcher and obsessive compulsive about getting all this out to the public. How wonderful to have this person who won't be taken seriously because there's no PhD after their name. There's just an MA.
It's interesting.
And that I am a nobody, but I'm writing for people. I'm writing for the layman. I'm there has to be a lot of there are footnotes. There is technology in these books. They're not easy reads. They're not page turners by any mean, but that I keep going and I keep putting it out there so that people learn, the people who choose to learn from this, either from the many talks that are on the internet or the radio interviews or whatever, in order to have people helpless before this onslaught. I mean, you and I both know that all those people who used to ask me, can we stop the chemtrails? No, we can't stop the chemtrails. How would I stop the chemtrails? How would I stop any of this high-tech science that's going on to bring the era of transhumanism and an AI-run planet, which is really what they're after. Does it help us to know our condition? Well, if we are spirits incarnating into the earth as souls, as Rudolf Steiner says we are, then yes, it helps us. We must know what is happening to us. We must be able to identify it so we can defend ourselves, so we can have the right thought forms, not be overtaken by fear and panic the way many people are now. That's why I do what I do, not because I think I can stop it, but I think that I'm allowed to do that, and others are allowed, because to have people who know their condition and know that this is going on, they'll either have to accept it and just die nicely, or they're going to have to dig in and find out about electromagnetism and chemicals in order to help themselves in their daily lives. Either way, they know. And that is one of the rules of the occult that the elite abide by. They must tell us what they are about to do to us. And I think I serve their purpose.
No, well, I don't think you serve their purpose at all, but I hear what you're saying. Yes, it's a bit like predictive programming. It's almost like in some instances, it's like a bit of post-hypnotic suggestion. Let people in on it a little bit, and then it might lessen or minimize the outcry when it is fully revealed in all its horrors in 15, 20, 25 years. Elana Freeland is our guest, author, researcher, broadcaster, public speaker. I've got to ask you this. I've got to take you back. I've got to pull you up on something, my friend, my old pal. You said that no weather system today is natural, that natural weather no longer exists. It's always geoengineered. That is one hell of a claim.
It is.
Can you prove that? Or is that a theory based on, have you added a few facts and have you thought, Occam's razor, it's about the best guess? Because I find that one a bit of a struggle, that there's no natural weather left. Go ahead.
No, and in a way, what I'm saying is not entirely true. Okay, so this is how it appears to be from having read the patents, the papers. I mean, this is a classified project because it is weapon status. The HARP, the chemtrails, the whole thing having to do, I call it the HARP system. That is all classified. So in order to do the research to write books like I do, it takes literally thousands of hours of going over things and over things and over things in order to see how they fit together, because you're not going to find a nice, tidy spot where it says geoengineering and then you're going to just run down everything that I'm saying and see how all of it fits together. No, you have to go and search, like the story of Cinderella with the lentils and the peas. You have to go and find which ones you need and how they fit together. So that is true. Now, regarding the weather as well, down in the South Pacific, there is a part there where the weather arises from the Pacific itself, this beautiful weather that is natural. It's from nature. And that's been going on probably for millions of years, or at least hundreds of thousands. And so once that weather arises, like a new birth every day, it is quickly grabbed up by either the Navy or the Merchant Marines or the geoengineers themselves with their guys on laptops at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or wherever. And they then set their tools in motion to control that weather. They use lasers. They make waveguides. They're able to sort of suck that weather up along the coast of California. And you might ask yourself, well, shoot, if that's all that moisture coming from the South Pacific, and it's fresh every day, how in the world did California have 9 years of drought?
Of drought, yeah.
Because that weather was dragged up north, past California, past Oregon, and it was tacked onto I'm blocking the word I need. It's then sent over the United States by the jet stream that is sort of hooked right over just north of me. I'm living in the perfect place for someone who's obsessing over the weather and climate and trying to show how it can be run like a machine. Because right north of me over Vancouver Island is a hook in the jet stream that then that weather born anew in the South Pacific is hooked onto, and then that weather is dragged by that jet stream from west to east. It always goes west to east, by the way. And it's pulled over. So maybe they want a snowstorm in Colorado. Maybe they want a drought in Kansas. Maybe they want, a storm, a tornado in Oklahoma. So whatever they need back east, that's the next algorithm that comes in. And so they're running weather. And how about in Europe? Yes, because it's NATO countries. All the NATO countries have to sign on the dotted line when they join NATO that they will allow their skies to be chemmed. And that's a done deal. So,
but nobody has ever seen such a document. This is the thing, isn't it? We have to admit this.
It's classified.
Yeah, this is a theory. This is a theory.
You can't even find out what's in the fuel of the jets carrying the chemical trails, because we know now. We had arguments for years. You can imagine, all of us, because we're down here on the Earth and we're arguing about what is running in the jet combustion chambers above us, but was it just from the combustion chambers? Was it just from the fuel, the JP8, the JP4? Now it's bio. No, there's more that's being dumped. And maybe it's in the wings where they tell us the fuel is, which turns out not to be true. So, it takes a lot of people who all, and I think the one that I like the best for that kind of information is Jim Lee, at climateviewer.com. Jim's very good at the fuel and following the jets and the technology of that. I'm expanding out beyond what any other geoengineering activist researcher is doing because of my relationship with Clifford. I mean, had I not encountered the Morgellons years ago in my own blood, and in the blood of all the people we were examining under the microscope, I don't know that I would be so obsessed over the synthetic biology thing. But Richie, just so I don't forget to tell you, I am involved deeply in a live blood analysis microscope group out of Australia, but it's international in scope, where all these people have their microscopes, all different kinds, very sophisticated, expensive, and are looking at blood that you just take out of the body, and the next minute you've got it under the microscope, so that you can see that from the vaxxed and the unvaxxed, the jabbed and the unjabbed, both, it is not one or the other, it is both now, are carrying the same technologies, and this is all synthetic biology and computer parts.
Yeah, I've seen this stuff online, and it's just mind blowing, really, and it's very difficult because, like, you see it online, and I don't know who these people are, so I have a choice to take them at face value or to wonder if they're pulling the wool over my eyes, and if this is misinformation, to try to discredit the researchers into geoengineering. No, I'm not saying it is. No, hang on, let me finish. I'm not saying it is, but I'm a journalist, and I have to be objective at all times. So I look at it and I don't know, and I think, but my but was, I went to the Isle of Wight 6 or so years ago, and I was there for a few days. I was visiting David Icke, and we were chatting away. And I met a lady, a young woman, a lovely young person. And she told me that she'd been afflicted with Morgellons. And I'd read about this, and I was very, very sceptical. And she removed her shirt. Well, she had a T-shirt underneath her shirt. And she showed me lesions and things on her arm, things that were growing. And I'd never seen anything like this before in my life. And this was a lucid... This was a sincere, softly spoken woman, and she said, this is what Morgellons is. She said, I heard you talk about it on your radio program, and I heard you express some skepticism, which I had done. It's my job to be skeptical, but it's also my job to shut up and listen to the other point of view, which is the reason why we do the show. It's the reason why you're here. So I find this absolutely, I find this amazing, this idea that contained in what is dropping from the sky is nanotechnology that is computerized, that is not biology, it is synthetic biology, and that it is ultimately re-engineering or biologically re-engineering the human race. And I've got to say this, as much as I love you, and we've known each other for years, and you'll come back on again in the future, I have got to acknowledge the people who are listening to this and who are thinking, come on, no way, where are the whistleblowers? How could they get away with this, Elana? That's what some people will be thinking.
Right, and I don't blame them, because this is such large scope on if it is an assault on the human being, and this is what they meant for years by talking about transhumanism, and the singularity was the term bandied about regarding there would be this moment when all of humanity would be transformed into a cyber type of
consciousness, you could say.
Say it again.
Consciousness, you might say.
Well, I was thinking of the body, because a lot of the things that are being found in the body, for example, the graphene oxide, and I won't say a lot today about this aspect because I'm writing a book on that for Inner Traditions Publishing. But
I can't wait to read that book. Hang on, you do know, and I think we spoke about this several years ago, you know that Manchester, I'm in Salford, which is in Greater Manchester. I'm only a couple of miles away from the world centre for graphene oxide, for graphene. You know this, don't you?
No kidding.
Yeah, the University of Manchester is basically owns, it doesn't own, but it's where all the research for graphene is taking place. It is the hub, the global hub for graphene. And it is one of the most secured facilities that they've ever known. I know security guards have worked around it. It is like science fiction levels of security, this place.
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
And the military calls it, this is why, I mean, obviously we're talking weapon status here.
Yeah.
The military calls graphene its holy grail. Now, I don't know about what you think that means, but to me, it means that it has many, many uses. And yes, a lot of them are just practical, but a lot of them are weaponized. And the ones, the graphene oxide, the hydrogel, the quantum dots, this whole array of synthetic biology, it's no wonder people are confused, because now and then, as you know, the mainstream media is pretty much completely controlled by corporate power, and that would include elites and foundations. But at the same time, the other assault going on, besides the fact that the corporate media tends to lie to protect interests that it favors, and that is not usually people, the next part is that there are people that have radio shows, that have TV shows, that are Hollywood stars, or have star status as political leaders, who are also doling out the disinformation about all this technology that I'm talking about. And at the same time, people like me, and I have to say that there's a couple more people that are like me, we are being marginalized. We are being ignored. The books are not sold. The books are not mentioned. Geoengineering is shoved to the very back of the bus because, they don't want people believing anything other than the narrative that they have sold people on through the 2015 meeting in New York, where, everybody signed on the dotted line to pay $1 bazillion to wipe up all the carbons. Why they chose carbon, it took me a long time to figure that out, because carbon is essential to life.
It is.
So, why would they choose? Well, there are reasons that they have chosen to demonize carbon. in favor of things like, well, shoot, silicon, graphene oxide. There are other things that are taking the place. So,
and can I just interject, because we've got about 13, 14 minutes left today. Next time we talk, we'll arrange a much longer stint, right? But it's nice. The reintroduction is nice today, and this is new to a lot of people listening to this program. So I want to read a few comments, because there are many of them, quickly, and then you come back in. Isabel says, a friend of mine monitors EMF in his house, electromagnetic field radiation in his house, and he recently told me that when there are heavy chemtrails in the sky, his EMF meter shoots up through the roof. That's from Isabel. There's so many messages coming in here. Cliff says, could you ask Elana, hi Cliff, is she aware of any successful methods or protocols to rid the human body of Morgellons and other toxins or nanoparticles dropped from the sky? That's a good question.
That's a question that a lot of people are pursuing with great vehemence, because the Morgellons think of Morgellons as the early model of what we're now dealing with through inoculations, through what we're breathing from the sky, through the GMO foods. I mean, when you start looking for this stuff under a microscope to see what's really there, it doesn't matter what it is. Could be a food from the grocery store. Could be, a medicine you give your child for a cough. It's all got the same stuff in it. So what does that say about the desire of the corporations, particularly Big Pharma, that wants all of this stuff in us for a transhuman end? That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Elana Freeland is
as far as I can't answer that question about, but the electromagnetics is part of it to really make your footprint. I am totally opposed to cell phones, iPhones. I don't own one, never have, never will. It's a weapon system, and it can be used against you even when you have it off. And that's what it meant when suddenly you couldn't take the battery out.
Oh, that's right.
There are so many ways that people are trying to find a way to get the nanotechnology out of us. Tony Pantalaresco is someone that is very dedicated to that, and he's being terribly assaulted in Ottawa, Canada. So whoever chooses to remedy this should be working quietly, because it's a dangerous situation for them.
Nell says, would this give dogs skin irritations? I'm a dog groomer, and I've never seen so many dogs with skin problems, says Nell. That's an interesting one. Sophia says, does Elana think the technology used in COVID jabs and the purpose behind the technology associated with HARP and chemtrails are linked? Are the jabs linked with all of this? She asks. We might have to give quick answers for today.
Absolutely linked.
No doubt about it, you don't think? Seamus,
through Big Pharma.
Seamus says, Richie, these Spanish flumes, he says, that stir up all the Saharan sand and dump it on the UK and Europe. Surely this must be a mega dump of all of these particles. They insist on scattering from above. A heavy payload does get noticed, so it gets passed off as sand. Remember all the cars covered in sand last year in Manchester? That's right. And they blamed it on desert winds from the Sahara. And Seamus is asking, could it be in fact that it came from the sky? There are so many of these. And
absolutely.
And ultimately, I'm going to give you the last word, because we've literally got about 7.5 minutes left today. Your thesis, which is laid out in your geoengineering trilogy, again, I'll put links, and I'm not going to do you a disservice by trying to sum up everything you've done in a few sentences, but there is a desire. You've discovered this. There is a desire on the part of an elite group of people to ultimately completely transform the planet that we live in and how we interact with it, but also to transform us as beings, to take us away from what we were, spiritual beings wearing a kind of a biological spacesuit, but to completely change that through a transhumanist agenda to blend and merge us with technology so that we become more digital than biological. And that ultimately this is about control, but much more besides control. That's where it's all leading. And that's what you've been looking into for the best part of 10, 11 years. I mean, it's amazing stuff, really. And you know, somebody said to me recently, before you have the final word today, and we will pick it up again at your leisure in the next month or so for a longer chat with your permission. But somebody said to me recently, and this is a genuine thing, somebody whose name I can't remember. It might have been somebody called Marie, who said to me, I've heard you talking about geoengineering and chemtrails. Do you really believe, Richie, that they could dump non-biological, digital, or maybe nanobot robotics, they could dump it on people? Do you really think they would do that? What could be so evil, and how could they get away with it? And my only answer was, well, look, check out people like Elana Freeland and others. But my answer was, they've admitted that they've done it to their own military. They've done it to their own populations in the 60s in the UK. They've done it many times over the years. They've dumped stuff into the atmosphere. And then they've carefully watched how this has affected humans. And they didn't ask our permission back then. So what makes you think they wouldn't do it today? That's my answer,
exactly.
you know? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there are, I understand people don't want to deal with the problem of evil. It seems today that thanks to the last 3 years, we have been able to see its methods and its persona, if you will, much more clearly now. It used to be that they always hid, and they always had, various psyops going on that were just inundated with intelligence agents that were lying through their teeth. Now, however, everything's out in the open, and part of that is due to some laws that have been passed, not through Congress, particularly in the United States, but through executive orders under this, we call it the clown regime here in the United States. So yes, we have to deal with evil. Rudolf Steiner said that the 21st century would be a tremendous encounter with evil, and that we must finally come to terms with it. It will arrive in part through technology, and we must pay very close attention to our technologies and the relationship that we have with them.
No doubt. Now you've got You've got 4 minutes. Look at the clock. I will not be forgiving.
Let me tell people where to get the books. Is that okay, Richie?
You can do, but I also wanted to ask you. And listen, I'll plug the Be Jesus out of the books, and I'll put the links on the podcast notes. So I'll do this. But CO2 is a life supporting gas. In 2.5 minutes, and then you'll have time to plug the books. In 2.5 minutes, why did they choose to demonize CO2?
Because they don't want us, they don't want to support living human beings. It's the same, it's like human 1.0 versus human 2.0. Human 2.0 will be the transhuman model. Human 1.0 must go. And that's not only because they're wanting to control the entire planet, according to the Soviet astrophysicist Kardashev, which says that a true civilization space program must first basically have full spectrum dominance over its own planet. Then it must have full spectrum dominance over its own sun and solar system. And then third, it must have full spectrum dominance over the galaxy. So this all may sound ridiculous and make us want to laugh, but these are the psychopaths that are in charge of the world and have been for generations, I might add. And this is the first real deep encounter that we've had, because for some reason, people are now waking up to the danger of allowing these elites to have their way and taking carbon dioxide out of the air. Oh yeah, there are other things they're taking away from us, like real food.
Real food, that's right. and natural medicines, banning them all around the world, the things that people have been using for thousands of years to properly heal themselves, not just to treat the symptoms. You've been listening to Elana Freeland. The geoengineering books, I can't recommend them highly enough, and I don't recommend very much, dear listener. The geoengineering trilogy, the most recent, Geoengineered Transhumanism, how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. Where can people get these books today?
Well, if you're in England and in Europe, I know Watkins carries my books if you ask for them. And in the United States, Amazon, you can get them on Amazon. I wish you could get the color edition, which you can only get from the Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle. If you know anyone in Seattle who would send you the book, that has color illustrations, whereas the Amazon version has black and white. It's due to just too much expense, really.
Listen, it was great to catch up with you again after so long.
Yes.
We'll chat over email and we'll schedule. I'll tell you what would be nice to do next time. I'm just looking at my app. There's an app for the programme. People can instantly message the studio. There are a lot of very good questions and comments that I'll save them. It would be nice to get into them next time.
Okay.
But great work, Elana. Thanks for sharing it with people. And all I can say is until next time, it won't be as long as it was to the last time. But it's been nice to catch up with you today, and well done. Thank you.